Extruder Filament Sensor Replacement Guide on the H2S. Before we begin, this is critical. Make sure the printer is fully powered off and disconnected from the power supply. Apply firm pressure to the bottom of the tool head front cover and pull it gently forward to release it. With the front cover removed, we'll now remove the silicone sock. Next, we'll remove the hot end. Make sure the hot end has fully cooled to room temperature before touching it. Unlock the hot end buckle and carefully remove the hot end from the heating assembly. We'll now remove the PTFE tube from the top of the tool head.
Then remove the rotary wheel.
Moving to the part cooling fan, we'll unscrew all 3 screws securing it. Once the screws are loose, allow the fan to hang naturally in place. Now we'll loosen the tool head rear cover. Remove the 2 screws from the top of the rear cover, then apply gentle pressure from the inner wall and push the tool head rear cover backward to release it. With the rear cover open, we can access the TH board. We'll disconnect the plugs in sequence. First, the extruder motor plug, then the hot end heating assembly cable, and finally the tool head camera plug. Once those 3 are disconnected, unscrew the 3 screws securing the TH board. Now carefully move the TH board, keeping your fingertips pressed against the heatsink to prevent it from falling away. Create enough space to reach the extruder filament sensor plug, then disconnect it from the TH board. We'll now move to the front of the tool head to address the hot end fan. Remove the 2 screws securing the hot end fan, and allow the fan to hang naturally. There's no need to fully remove it at this stage. Next, remove the 2 screws from the eddy current coil. Again, we don't need to pull it completely free. Simply allow it to hang in place while we continue. We're now ready to remove the extruder assembly. Remove the 4 fixing screws from the extruder assembly. Before pulling the assembly outward, take note, the extruder filament sensor ribbon cable has adhesive tape backing. Carefully work it loose before continuing. Now, shake the extruder assembly gently left and right and pull it out from the front of the tool head. Next, we'll remove the 2 screws from the top of the assembly to release the extruder filament sensor. Pull the extruder filament sensor assembly out carefully, taking care not to apply excessive force to avoid tearing the ribbon cable. Finally, remove the single fixing screw and detach the extruder filament sensor and its cable from the extruder unit. The extruder filament sensor and its cable are supplied together as a single component. We're now ready to install the new extruder filament sensor.
With the old cable removed, take your new extruder filament sensor cable and install it onto the sensor board assembly. Once it's seated correctly, secure the black retaining clip and tighten the 1 fixing screw to hold everything in place. Now we'll work the assembly back in. Slide the extruder filament sensor assembly into the extruder unit and make sure the cable is routed through the gap at the top. This is important. Before you tighten the 2 screws, take a moment to inspect the screw holes and confirm that no part of the cable is sitting inside them. Once you're satisfied that the cable is clear, go ahead and install both fixing screws. Next, peel off the adhesive backing at both locations on the extruder filament sensor cable to prepare it for mounting. Take a moment to organize both the motor cable and the extruder filament sensor cable together, then install the extruder unit back into the tool head. Once it's seated, press the extruder filament sensor cable firmly against the inner wall of the tool head housing so the adhesive bonds properly. Then tighten all 4 fixing screws to secure the unit. Moving on, reinstall the eddy sensor and tighten its 2 fixing screws. After installation, you'll want to verify the sensor gap. Take a small piece of A4 paper folded in half, temporarily reinstall the hot end, and use the folded paper to check the distance between the eddy sensor and the hot end. You're looking for moderate resistance with smooth sliding, which confirms the spacing is correct.
Once the gap is confirmed, the hot end can be removed again temporarily while we continue reassembly. Now we'll reinstall the hot end fan. Align the labeled side of the fan toward the hot end and match it with the screw holes. Once installed, confirm that the fan cable is properly routed within the cable channel and is not at risk of being pinched. Returning to the TH board, secure the TH board cable connector at the rear of the tool head. Once the cables are properly organized and secured, then insert the tool head camera plug, connect the hot end heating assembly plug, and use that plug and its cable to hold down the part cooling fan cable. Once the cables are properly organized and secured, tighten the 3 fixing screws on the TH board. We can now reinstall the tool head rear cover. Before fully seating it, confirm that the part cooling fan cable is routed into its dedicated notch. If it's left outside the channel, it may be pinched by the rear cover frame. We'll now reinstall the part cooling fan. Align it with the screw holes and slide it into position, taking care not to press down on the fan cable during insertion. Once aligned, tighten the 3 screws to secure the part cooling fan. Once everything is positioned correctly, press the rear cover into place and lock in the 2 rear cover fixing screws. With the rear cover secured, reinstall the hot end, making sure the hot end clip is fully open before inserting it onto the hot end heating assembly. Once fully seated against the base, close the left metal plate first, then press the right pressure ring and lock the clip. Slide the silicone sock back onto the hot end from the bottom upward. Align the top clips of the tool head front cover, and finally, reinstall the PTFE tube. That completes the extruder filament sensor replacement for the H2S. For more guides, tips, and troubleshooting help, visit the Bambu Lab Wiki at wiki.bambulab.com.